I recently spent 2 evenings down at Surrey Rolling Road in Farnborough to witness 2 of my good friends' Escorts, well, one of them's an Escort anyway, getting set up on the dyno by tuning legend Chris Todd. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys how those dyno sessions went. This is going to look absolutely ridiculous. Alright, before we see some dyno action, it's about time I gave a mention to June's entry or entries into the official 2025 MH calendar, which is Dylan's Fiesta and his brother's Capri. His brother, I now know, is called Lewis, and it's Lewis that's been in touch via email to give us some more details and pictures about these 2 Fords. Alright, so Lewis has actually sent in quite a detailed email, so I'm just going to read it out in full and put some pictures on screen whilst I do so. So Lewis says, "Hi Marcus, seen the video about getting more information on the cars in your calendar. Me and my brother Dylan have our cars featured in June. My car is the Capri and Dylan's is the Fiesta. I'll start with my car. It's a 1987 2-litre laser and it's the last year they made the Capri. I bought the car at the beginning of last year. Since then, I've lowered it 2 inches all round and put JBW wheels on it. I've got 7s on the front and 7.5s on the back. When we put the wheels on the car, it didn't look right with the offset wheels, so we tried multiple different things to get the wheels to sit flush. In the end, we put Group 4 rally studs on the car so that we could fit spacers. With the car lowered, it all shaped into place, and now the car looks stunning. I agree. I have also put a 4-branch manifold on and complete uprated exhaust system. The Capri is very much an ongoing project. I have some big plans for it, but we'll see. Moving on to the Fiesta, Dylan got the car around the same time I got mine. It's a 1988 Fiesta. The car has been pretty much under a full rebuild, with the car being welded up in certain places and it's had a full respray. The car is originally a 1.1 Popular, but has the XR2 body kit and wheels. It's also lowered 2 inches all round. We have just bought a 2-litre Z-Tech and a set of carbs to make this car go like a rocket ship. Me and Dylan are in our early 20s. We grew up around classic Fords and race cars. Our dad used to race a Ford Puma National Hot Rod, which was a full fiberglass car on a space frame running a Vauxhall red top. Dad also had a Mk1 RS2000 at the time. As me and Dylan got older, we got into racing as well, starting off in a Vauxhall Nova Hot Rod. I stopped racing and got more into the classic Ford scene, and Dylan still races and is currently building a 2-litre hot rod ready for this year's season. Our dad, Greg, has just finished building a Mk1 Escort classic hot rod. The car is fully caged, running a 2-litre Z-Tech with a built Type 9 straight cut gearbox. As you can see in the pictures, the car is sponsored by Status Quo, and the story behind that is that our uncle back in the 70s was actually sponsored by the band when he used to race. So this car is currently a tribute. Lewis then goes on to say, "If you're interested, we would love to display all 3 cars at the Classic Ford show in May," and they did display all 3 cars on my club stand at this year's Classic Ford show. And what an awesome trio of Fords they are and were on the club stand. In fact, their dad Greg's Hot Rod Mk1 was probably my favourite car on the club stand this year. So I want to send a huge thanks out to Dylan, Lewis and Greg for getting in touch with the extra information, and of course for displaying your cars on my club stand at the Classic Ford show. But with all that being said, it's time to check out some rolling road action, starting with my good friend George's Pinto powered Mk2 Escort. George's Mk2 is mint. It's had a very recent paint job and he's only just got it back on the road. In fact, we saw it at its first show since its rebuild, Players Classic at Goodwood. check out this video on my channel if you haven't already. This Mk2 has a 2 litre Pinto running on 44 IDF carbs. I'm loving the alloy rad, and just check out that Simpson manifold. George has kept the bay nice and clean with all wires tucked out of sight, and he's even hidden the catch can under the inner wing. George's Pinto runs a Z-Tech coil pack with an aftermarket trigger kit on the crank pulley. This is all controlled by a Nodiz Gen X ECU, which George of course purchased from my website at marcushayesuk.com. Into the cockpit, and George has kept everything looking standard, with a really cool brown interior, and any mod cons are hidden out of sight. It's fair to say the exterior is a bit more crazy, especially at the back end with that huge custom spoiler. I love the clear lenses, and George has painted the inside of the lights white. The stainless exhaust system is George's own creation, and you can see that the car is bumperless, and George has grafted some indicator bulbs into the front headlights. Under the surface, this car is just as clean underneath as it is on the top, and it's got some really cool modifications. The English axle has an LSD and uprated half shafts, and an A-frame kit to brace the axle and keep it in check. Round the front, this thing has compression struts and adjustable TCAs, and the anti-roll bar is connected with drop links. George is a self-confessed stance boy, so runs the car really low, with those awesome Schmidt rims tucked right up into the arches. Right, so it's time to get this thing into the dyno cell so that Chris Todd can set it up and we can see how much power it's going to make. Big shout to Stuart, who was also at the dyno that day. Check out this video that I made when I went to visit him and check out his cars. Anyway, time to get George's Mk2 on the rollers and get it strapped down ready. Be sure to follow Chris Todd's CT tuning page on Facebook to keep up to date with all the cars that he gets to work his magic on. I'll leave a link in the description. Here Chris is manually checking the ignition timing with a timing light so that he can calibrate the trigger kit, and here he's balancing the carbs to make sure that all 4 trumpets are sucking the same amount. Chris is now mapping the ignition to make sure the spark occurs at the right time all throughout the rev range. And after a jet change to make sure the fueling was right in the carbs, it was time for some power runs. So George's Pinto made 175 horsepower. It has a worked cylinder head, a HT1 cam, and cast V6 pistons, which increases the capacity to a 2.1. It will certainly be a whole load of fun in Mexico. And now the car's rocking an MH air freshener. Into a new day, and it's time for Garry Ball to put his 5.3 litre twin turbo LS V8 beast on the dyno. This is of course a TVR with Garry's own custom made fiberglass Mk1 Escort body, and I've been following this build on this channel. Check out the super aggressive removable front end, which is absolutely dripping in carbon fibre. In fact, the whole car is, because Garry produces carbon fibre and fiberglass panels. I'll leave his links in the description for any of you guys out there that are looking for any panels for your car. My favourite bit of carbon on this beast has got to be the active rear wing. So crazy. And here is Chris's office for the evening. Such an awesome cockpit, loving the floor mounted pedals, digital dash, removable steering wheel, huge tunnel to house the BMW gearbox, and the seats pushed back right near the rear axle. The heart of this beast is huge, 5.3 litre LS3 V8 with 2 massive turbos hanging off of it. With the front off, we can see the massive intercooler and the exhausts which exit just behind the front wheels. This thing is an absolute weapon. First number on the screen, 105 horsepower, which Garry doesn't seem too pleased about. But once Chris had worked his magic, it was time to see what this thing could really do. There it is, 623 horsepower, but that was only at 7 psi of boost, and Garry plans to run 15 psi, but he forgot to bring the other springs for his blow-off valve, so that'll have to wait for another day. With the dyno session complete, it was all hands on deck to put Garry's Escort TVR back together so they could get it on the trailer and take it home. Alright, so I've got something to show you that I grabbed off of Garry when I saw him at the dyno, which will be fitted to Heidi, my hearing aid beige model Mk2 Escort. I'll show you that in a minute, but yeah, what you've seen is two very successful dyno sessions. It's fair to say that George's Pinto lump might have made a bit more power if it wasn't for the fact that he decided to fit a slightly thicker head gasket to the engine than would be ideal. He just wanted to keep it super reliable, and he's not one for chasing figures or anything like that. In fact, when he came out of the dyno, I told him that he should take a trip through Mexico on the way home, and his words were, "I'm not that guy." But then he rang me to say that he did take a little trip through Mexico and he found somewhere quiet to do a fat burnout. So yeah, that Pinto has clearly got enough power for the Mexico trips, even if they are going to be few and far between, because George is just not that guy. When it comes to Garry's setup, it will clearly be making a considerable amount more power once he's able to turn the boost up to 15 psi. But 600 horsepower out of that TVR, which probably weighs about 900 kilos, is crazy already. And he might find that 600 brake is powerful enough, but yeah, you can never have enough power. You always want more and more. And he is planning to go back to Surrey Rolling Road to get Chris Todd to turn the boost up at some point in the future. A couple of things they noticed during Garry's dyno session though. The fuel system was showing signs that it might not be up to the task, and Garry's already actually started buying parts to upgrade the fuel system. They were saying that maybe the fuel pumps were getting a bit hot as well, so maybe Garry will look at ducting cold air into the boot or just mounting the fuel pumps underneath. And also, Garry was saying that he wants to improve his intercooler piping, so he can get all those bits done, enjoy the 600 horsepower that he's got for the time being, and then he can go down to see Chris again to hopefully make 750 plus horsepower. The injectors are currently only running at 40%, so those injectors might actually be adequate for 750 horsepower. And yeah, the boost is literally at 50% of what would be really safe. So that engine at the moment, making 600 horsepower, is going to be super reliable. It'll run forever. But yeah, what a beast that thing is. It was so cool to finally see some numbers with regards to that twin turbo LS setup. Anyway, with all that being said, let me show you what I grabbed from Garry the other day. All right, into my very busy spare room, and what I've got here is Heidi's boot lid. And standing next to it is the wing that I did have fitted to Heidi before. I've got it wrapped up in bubble wrap. I'm not going to unwrap it now. You've all seen what it looks like, but for those who haven't, I'll put a picture on the screen now. But over here, I've got the new wing that Garry Ball made for me. And yeah, this one is considerably wider than the boot lid. So it's probably going to come out as wide as the body is where the swage line is, you know, the upper swage line, I think. We'll find out once I actually get it fitted to the car, and you guys will be able to get a better look at this when it's fitted to the car, but this is going to look absolutely ridiculous on my Mk2 Escort, which is exactly the look that I'm going for. The centre of this is actually made out of fiberglass, which has been painted satin black, and the end bits are actually carbon fibre, pre-preg carbon fibre, gloss lacquered. So yeah, satin black with some carbon touches, which is actually going to tie into the rest of the car really well. Although Garry is adamant that he wants to make me a full carbon fibre version of this rear wing, but I'd actually like to somehow get a carbon fibre bonnet for Heidi at some point in the future, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, super grateful to Garry for making me this ridiculous wing. So that's all I've got for this video. Don't forget, if you need your car set up on the rolling road, definitely get in touch with Chris Todd. I'll leave his links in the description. If you're after any fiberglass or carbon fiber panels for your car, definitely go to Garry Ball. I'll leave his links in the description. But yeah, massive thanks as always to everyone who's tuned in. Do give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll leave all my links in the description as well for you guys that want to follow or support me elsewhere on the internet. My email address is down there as usual for anyone who wants to contact me. Huge thanks as always to my patrons for your ongoing support. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.